Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My
My guide.
and my salvation.
And my salvation.
By
By
night.
night.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet. Noble Jawali. Islam. Give thanks, Mark. Readings to be read every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardinal button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jawali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Jawali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Jawali. To the members of the Moor Science Temple of America, Islam. This is the instruction from your prophet Noble Jawali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you would be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I am Noble Jawali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Jawali. Islam. Omar, you want to just do the updates of what's coming up? Let me just send something out here.
We're looking to do art gallery next week, which will be looking to meet at the art gallery at 11:30. It's $25 for adults, or $25 for adults 25 and over. Offspring who are, or anyone under 25 gets them free. We have something happening with the Moorish Heritage School where some of the offspring have already signed up to be involved in that, but that's what we'll be doing next Saturday. So 11:30, and the following either Saturday or Sunday we'll be doing our autumnal equinox walk and feast together. That'll be a combination of the two. Which will be, the walk will be at the belt line, which is the fields going up. And then we will be having catered lunch. We're asking for donations of $10 for the lunches because we have 5 principals catering, creating some meals. So those will be sort of like a takeout sort of situation. We'll be in a park there. So for all those who want to be involved, we'll invite you guys to notify us of that so that we can have food for you. If you don't want food, you're quite welcome. I mean, you don't have to buy the food, but understand that there will be food there, and unless you sort of sign up for it, more than likely there won't be any food there for you. So those are the 2 things that are happening in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be having, so next week we'll be having the art gallery, and then on the Sunday we'll be having a meeting here. And then the week after that, I'm still not absolutely certain what day that will be happening on. The one will be happening on the Saturday or the Sunday. That will be the autumnal equinox walk. Our second annual autumnal equinox walk with our autumnal equinox feast.
Like we said, we'll be open for Q&A today. We're probably going to try to go hard till 12 to 2:30, and we have some other meetings that we have to get taken care of. A couple of things to start. There was Bill 183. Bill 183 had a amendment dealing with strengthening the Ontario Human Rights Act. The explanatory note. Currently, Section 29.
The Ontario Human Rights Act.
Yeah. The Human Rights in Ontario Act, Bill 183. Currently, Section 29 of the Human Rights Code sets out the Ontario Human Rights Commission's functions. The bill amends Section 29 of the Code to provide that the Commission's functions must be carried out independently and in a manner consistent with the principles relating to the status of national institutions adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. The bill also amends the Code to incorporate the current Memorandum of Understanding between the Attorney General and the Chief Commissioner into Part 3 of the Code. Her Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Legislative Assembly of the Province of Ontario, enacts as follows. 1. Section 29 of the Human Rights Code is amended by striking out, quote unquote, the functions of the Commission are to promote at the beginning and substituting, quote unquote, the function of the Commission are independently and in a manner consistent with the principles relating to the status of national institutions adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, December 20th, 1993, and published by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights to promote. The Code is amended by adding the following section. Memorandum of Understanding incorporated into Part 3. The Memorandum of Understanding, dated February 19, 2019, between the Attorney General and the Chief Commissioner on behalf of the Commission, is incorporated into this part. Exception. Despite subsection 1, section 7 of the Memorandum of Understanding is not, duration review and amendment is not incorporated in this part. This act comes into force on the day it receives royal assent. And the act is the Strengthening Human Rights in Ontario Act. Now, what it is that we want the theme for the Moors is to recognize that everybody's trying to hide their criminal activity under human rights. Everybody's taking the position of enforcing some type of human rights or whatever, aligning themselves with United Nations declarations of rights in order so that they can look as if they're down with human rights, or they've been down with human rights, or to have the new people thinking that, oh, there's a human rights thing going on here, so everything's cool, we're safe, we're comfy, right? Always remember that as soon as they start talking bills, acts, statutes, or whatever, they're not talking human rights. It's just language that they're putting out there. It's not an actual, tangible way that they're looking to deal with their thing. So, for example, we've been having some conversations with quote unquote Ontario government, and they can say that, you know, it's due to COVID or whatever why they're not responding the way they would usually respond. But because we're talking human rights, they can't respond, really and truly, right? It's not as if because the things that we're presenting or standing on is what they know would mean the end of them. But the other part of it is that we know that it's not going to be some mass, you know, awakening of the people and all this, where these people are going to lose their nigger dollars or whatever it is they're worried about losing, right? Because of people waking up or consciousness raising or whatever. It's only going to be select few, so it's not even that serious. You know what I mean? With where it is that we are as Canaanland Moors, Islam Moor, we want Moors to look at moving on that approach. There's a lot of different bodies that are presenting themselves as the legitimate Moorish whatever, or their way is the way stuff's supposed to run because they've done it like this or whatever like that. If they're not speaking from the perspective of rights, right? They have to be talking from the perspective of rights if they're saying they're Moors and all this. As soon as they're not talking rights, if they're talking do some package or sign some paper, or we got this thing for you, once you have this, you can go anywhere you want or whatever, and they're not talking rights, don't take these people serious. If they're not talking Noble Juali, Islam Moor, right? If they're not talking Noble Juali, if you go on their website and you're seeing all this amazing stuff, all these papers that they got, and they got this, they got that, they got all these different documents that you can use to do whatever, and then they don't have a picture of Noble Juali up there, don't take them people serious. Immediately go to another website. Anything that leads to some shopping cart. Yeah. As soon as you see shopping cart, leave that stuff alone. All right. Now there was also, because if we look at the work that Juali did by insisting that we declare our nationality, he's dealing with rights, period. And any Moors that you're using as a reference point, any Moors that you're using as a template, they better be talking rights. If they're not talking rights, leave those people alone. Their position is to confuse you. Their position is to make sure that this doesn't go where it's supposed to go, right? They want this in one direction, and direction they're looking at is confusion. That's it, nothing else. I don't care how new their fez looks. I don't care if their pendants are shiny and all that. I don't care if they have the best looking Noble Drew Ali shirt you ever seen or whatever. If they're not talking rights, leave those people alone, right? Because it's getting to a place where you could be your activity as a Moor could be compromised because of guilty by association, just like we were talking about with the definition of Negro, and anybody who affiliates with a Negro, you're probably a Negro, right? Anybody who affiliates with a criminal, you're probably a criminal. Anybody who connects with something other than Noble Drew Ali, they're probably not down with Noble Drew Ali, more than likely, right? So be very mindful of the games that people play, especially when it comes to online, because take a note out of Brother Omar's book that he don't even go online when it comes to this info, because of the corruption that's out there from people online, Now, the other thing that we wanted to put out there was Library of Parliament. Library of Parliament legislative summary of Bill C-16. Hey, Omar, you want to put on that thing? Bill C-16, amending the Canadian Human Rights Act. Amending the Human Rights Act. And they have a section in here on human rights law. Human rights laws in every jurisdiction in Canada prohibit discrimination against people based on certain listed grounds, such as sex, ethnic origin, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. For example, the Canadian Human Rights Act lists 11 grounds for which discrimination is prohibited. These laws provide complaint mechanisms that individuals or groups may follow when they believe that they have been discriminated against in the provision of services, accommodation, and employment. The Supreme Court has held that the laws are quasi-constitutional and that other laws must be interpreted in ways that are consistent with them. Right? And again, this is the Parliament talking, right? The Supreme Court, the Parliament saying that the Supreme Court has held that the laws are quasi-constitutional and other laws must be interpreted in ways that are consistent with quasi-constitutional laws. Which goes back to the same thing that we're saying, that they don't deal with law like that. They don't deal with rights and human rights and things like that. So presenting those type of arguments to them might fall on deaf ears, because they really can't go there, because they're not a country, they're not a commonwealth, they're not the land. All of them are private corporations, including the Supreme Court, which is why they can talk quasi-constitutional and not talk just constitutional. Why would it have to be quasi if that's the Supreme Court? They shouldn't even be mentioning quasi if they're saying that they're Supreme Court, right? The Canadian Human Rights Act prohibits discrimination by federally regulated employers or service providers, including federal departments, agencies, and crown corporations, which includes them. right? Because Canada is a crown corporation in itself, right? First Nations governments and private federally regulated companies such as banks, trucking companies, broadcasters, and telecommunications companies. However, because matters involving property, civil rights, and local matters have been placed within the jurisdiction of the provinces in Canada's constitution, most human rights complaints pertaining to the provision of services, accommodation, employment, or the management of public spaces and facilities are made under provincial human rights laws. Right? So they don't have a venue or an avenue to deal with human rights issues, right? Which is why when you deal with them, regardless of where they're going, you go with human rights. I don't care where they're going. They can go wherever. Because if their position is, well, quasi-constitutional, and that's coming from Supreme Court, then we probably need to consider our own stuff and stop expecting things from these people, because they don't have any grounds to stand on with regard to, let's just say, they say, okay, fine, yeah, we accept it. Who's hearing that? The Supreme Court, who does quasi, whatever? Because that's the highest it's going to go. And if the highest it's going to go is dealing with quasi-constitutional, actually, and you got just put up quasi in there just so in case nobody's heard it before. If the Supreme Court is saying quasi, then we need to be skeptical of them from the top down, right? And again, we are not taking the position of, oh, because they don't deal with it, then we got to find some other means of whatever. No, we're going to beat them in the head with human rights, because that's what it is that we have to stand on. We're going to beat them with indigenous rights, because that's what we're standing on as to how we have the power to do what we're doing. It's not because of, you know, we're Moors and Canada says that we're Moors, so we're going to, no, we have been known as the supporters and defenders of constitutional rights, human rights, indigenous rights for as long as you could imagine. When you look at in history, when they talk about Islam came in and they conquered people, that's because people were violating their human rights. Not because of some Islamic whatever. It's because people's human rights are violated. And eventually, you violate the wrong people, they might do something back to you. And you can't be mad. You're gonna have to take that out, because you really shouldn't have been violating those rights. And as soon as they go to that position, as soon as you draw the line in the sand and they're talking about cross the line and all that stuff, then you should be prepared to do what you have to do with regard to these people. Right? Now, even with regard to all the stuff going on with somebody gets murdered and then the marching and whatever else, and these people know that they got actually, where's the video at? We'll just play this so you can hear what these people know they got, and then ask yourself why are they even putting themselves in these positions knowing that this is what's going on. So they need a medic, right? Because they got pepper spray. Doesn't the medic work for the people who just pepper sprayed them? So if you're gonna go to rally to go whatever, shouldn't you have your own medic there? Because you know what these people are up to. that ever since the 60s they've been sicking dogs on people and all that stuff, fire hoses and all that stuff. You still go into marches thinking that, oh well, they actually talk about it themselves with us.
I'm not entirely sure what they're saying we are. Oh my god. Everything hurts. I'm sorry. That they're calling this an unlawful assembly. It's absolutely ridiculous. They've been peaceful up until we got to this point, and now they are acting with aggression, just like they did yesterday. They're shooting on peaceful people. We are prepared because we know how they react, and we know how they attack peaceful. Screw peaceful. It's our constitutional right to assemble, and they're infringing on our rights.
What are they saying?
Rights only get infringed on if you let them. Infringing on rights is because of people's lack of having a status. Slavery is voluntary. So if you volunteer to be a slave, don't complain about slave treatment. You can't, because you volunteered, right? All these people going out there, now they're saying, okay, well, you know, we have a right to peaceably assemble. No, you don't. Not in a democracy, you don't. Not when tyranny is being run by government. No, you don't have those rights. You could assume that the rights exist to do that, but that's not really a right like that. People don't have the right to peaceably assemble like that. If you have the right to peaceably assemble, it's because there's an issue going on and you're going somewhere and you're going to be there assembling to it. You're not marching up and down the place and talking about you have the right to peaceably assemble, because that's not assembling. That's movement.
But if you have the right to assemble, why would the police be there?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But that's supposed to let them know that they don't have the right. That's supposed to let them know that, oh, it's a police state. Oh, well, if it's a police state, and if they're doing, you know, black masks, black gloves, black everything, and you're not seeing people in uniform, you're not seeing people with the whatever city, whatever badge on their stuff, they're just wearing all black stuff, and you think that this is some game that you could go out there and think these people aren't going to violate you? They will violate you.
Because the only people you're marching, until you cross that margin, then they do whatever they need to do. Yeah,
but even on that level, it's not even that they have a margin, because when the highwaymen see all the people over there and they're coming this way or whatever, and then the highwaymen do the line, right? That's called corralling. You only do that to cattle. You don't do that to human beings. You only corral sheep and cows and horses and stuff like that. That's what you corral, right? But they're not whipping the whatever. They're shooting them with pepper spray bullets and all this, right? That these people know that this is what's going to happen when they go there. It's not like they don't know.
They're pepper balls. We call it chemical warfare. Whenever you smell it, your face burns, your mouth burns, your nose burns. It can.
So how prepared are you? You know these people got pepper spray balls or whatever. You're going there with some short sleeves and your face open and skin open and all this, hair open, right? They're gonna say, you know, white man's the devil and all that stuff, and then they got the white milk there to put in their eyes when stuff goes wrong, which is an apparent, blatant contradiction, which means that obviously you don't qualify as humanity. So we're gonna treat you however we want. And we're gonna do it openly, and you're gonna film it, and nothing's gonna happen.
Because the fact that you're out there, you're not thinking. We are out there that you're not thinking. Because if you were thinking it, you reason it, right?
And this is why it's a theme that when people get into this, all your nigger stuff you thought that was something to do or whatever like that, put that stuff somewhere. All your emotions and all that because something happened to somebody, you want to go do something about it or not, put all that stuff somewhere else. That has no place with regard to this, declaring who we are and being the return of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to prove a point to them. They've let you know their position since the 60s. You come out in these streets playing around like you got some rights, we are going to violate you. G20 stuff that they did here, they took what's that center downtown? They took the thing, made it into a concentration camp to put people in. Here.
Where they had the tents?
Yeah, where they had
Yeah, what was it supposed?
They had those people fenced into a thing, and they had to stay there. They had to pee, doo-doo, vomit, or whatever, where they're at. There's no washroom service. No, you could wash your hands. No, you could wear. People are in that stuff for a month plus.
Yeah, and then like when persons tried to, private persons tried to interview them, then the police were preventing them from being interviewed. So I wondering what.
Yeah, because those people aren't really private people like that. Right? Go ahead, Mark.
That was at the Sheraton Hotel. We had some security guys that went there.
Yeah.
They didn't allow to come home until everything was over.
Yeah.
They just got the message at that time that you guys are staying here till this whole thing is over. So they had to stay there for like a week.
And then that's the people who work for them.
Yeah.
So the people who work for them can't go home. You think you're going home? If these people
G20 summit.
when they had the G20 summit here. Yeah. Yeah. Few years back. Right? You got Quasi there?
Yeah. Quasi from Latin, as if, almost as it were, anonymous to. This term is used in legal phraseology to indicate that one subject resembles another, with which it is comprehended in certain characteristics. But that there are intrinsic and material differences between them. That's what it's basically. And also says it is often prefixed to English words implying mere appearance or one of reality.
So again, when the Supreme Court tells you that the laws are quasi-constitutional, they're not talking about law.
They're talking about a sham.
They're talking about a con. They're talking about, hopefully these people don't look up quasi in a law dictionary so they know what we're talking about, because they already know people don't read. And that's not even qualified to just our people. People generally don't read anymore. People generally don't have common sense anymore. And they don't think for themselves. Good one.
I'm saying there's some words here that says that I guess it's related to quasi.
Mhm.
It says as to quasi, it says affinity, contract, corporation, crime, delects, deposit, derelict, easement, intel, fee, interim, municipal, corporation, offense, partners, personality, possession, plus accomplice, child, I don't know what that is. Purchase, reality, tenant, tort, fee, trustee, and unserved.
Read that again.
So the words are the same.
Definition.
All of it,
Yeah, the definition.
the whole definition or just the last one? Beginning Latin as if Latin, quasi-Latin, as if, almost as a word, analogous to. This term is used in a legal phraseology to indicate that one subject resembles another, with which it is comprehend in certain characteristics, but that there were intrinsic and material differences between them. And also says it is often prefixed to the English word implying mere appearance or a want of reality. Then the words related to it is as is to property, quasi, infinity, contract, corporation, crime, delect, deposit, derelict, easements, entail, fee, interim, municipal corporation, offense, partners, personality, possession, and POSTHMOUS, child. Purchase, reality, tenant, tort, and tradito, trustee, and usurper.
So it says a municipal corporation is quasi.
Yeah.
It says.
It says corporation by itself.
Fee is quasi. Certain
It's quasi.
certain things that are quasi don't have standing at law. The only way they have standing is when the people use them without knowledge.
I was having a conversation last night, and someone was, and it was just the same conversation, and they were saying that, okay, so if we're to get rid of the democratic government now, the democratic government, who is there to replace them? Let's say we get rid of both them and the opposition, who do we have to replace them? That was the basis, that was the basis of their reasoning.
Right.
So maybe you guys can give me some ammo to
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to the thing of because I think you were talking with people, our people.
No.
You're just talking with people
No, I
generally.
was talking to a family.
Okay.
It was in the family.
Yeah. No.
Because they were in tune to what I was saying.
Mhm.
And the term democracy is that democracy have to be in a country.
Yeah.
We have to be democracy.
Right.
We have to be democracy.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
And it goes back to the same thing that once people don't know what stuff is, if I convince you that apples are oranges, and then you're going around with oranges as if those are apples, and then you're going to people and they're looking at you like, what are you talking about? That's not it. You're dead on it. Like, no, this is apple. Then you're in error. It's not, you know what I mean? The item.
The idea.
You're the one that, it's not,
So
democracy is not.
We use that same apple and
Yeah.
and what they the response to that, and I'm sorry, I just need
No,
the
for sure.
response to that is, but people, if generally people were just there would be lawless, there would be lawlessness, and so therefore the government is there to, these are all coming from the persons who consider themselves educated.
Right.
So there are people natural characteristics. For some, there's good and there's bad. So you're going to have some people disobeying law and whatever. And my response to them was that if you are living righteously, that in righteously which encompasses all the five true
principles,
then you who is good, doing majority over time, you over whatever, and then we were the good ones were being shamed into subjection. Now we're gonna flip it and shame the bad ones.
Right.
You call them dirty.
Right.
Shame the dirty ones into subjection.
Yeah.
So then we create back a balance and a counterbalance.
But then again,
from a spiritual.
But then with regard to that, which is why we have to consider what Noble Drew Ali presented, that when you get on top, treat the European nice. When you get your power back, don't try to do that stuff like your ancient forefathers and put them in slavery again and all this, because you're gonna have the same stuff. You're gonna have the same stuff happen again.
I came upon that. And we were selling them to
just like how they did with us.
They were doing what they did to us.
Yeah, that's why they did what they did to us, because it's called karma. Because everything goes around, comes back around again.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, So I was using me to judge everybody, I guess. And if there's this deep, embedded compassion towards anything that has breath,
Yeah.
who could be even it be? Because when it took about 2 days or so, this came up on my mind, and I was really coming here to ask that question. Really, did we really do to them what they are doing to us? And then if we,
Yeah, speaking, it was a miracle to find that it was online.
it's painful to confirm that we have people in us. Bearing in mind that when I reached out to Kujo, I felt like I want to find a planet that I can stop this one and get off that one. So just to even know, I didn't think that we contaminate Mama Nature to that extent.
Yeah, but it's also because we always have this thing of this self-righteous whatever, like we never did any evil stuff. Like we're the gods of the universe, we built pyramids or whatever, but we didn't, cut people's head off and throw them off the pyramid.
Wow.
We did dirt too. We didn't just do stuff righteous. There's ones of us who did dirt. Right? That's just what it is. So when we're looking at the scope of what we're finding out about ourselves, we have to take the good, but we also have to acknowledge the bad that we did. And in accepting the bad that we did, we'll get that sense of, oh well, we're supposed to be more compassionate or whatever than that. I mean, even if we created them and we put them in slavery or whatever, nobody's not talking about the fact that Europeans inherited castles and all that stuff from us. Which is what they have right now that they're using as their governmental whatever. All the stuff that they inherited from being slaves. So don't look at it like it's a negative like that. Because you talk to any Europeans who are slaves to the Moors and they'll take that before they take being Europeans and living in the barn or whatever. Like they would not trade being a slave under the Moors for being, oh yeah, we'll just be Europeans and we'll find our own way to do how figure out however. No, they wanted to live under the Moors as a slave. It wasn't a negative. It became negative, right? It became negative because it's an abuse of power. It's really not a position somebody's supposed to take, which is why again, Drew Ali put in the Quran that we have master and servant chapter. We have a magistrate and subject chapter to stress the point that it's an equal playing field. If somebody's saying I'm master and they got slaves or whatever, guarantee they're only master because they got slaves. If they didn't have any slaves, they won't be jack because they're not gonna go clean the washroom and do all that stuff. That they'll be just some dirty people. Because the master has to give honor to the slave. The master can't take a superior position as if I'm the man when you have somebody to wipe your ass or whatever. You can't be the man. How are you the man? Somebody's cleaning up your mess. You're not the man. You can play like you're the man if you want to. Everybody has their position that they're gonna play. But when the reality gets down to it, where are you at in the scope of things? And again, the Moors were the best masters. Anybody who was enslaved to the Moors, they didn't have no issues with being slaves to the Moors. It was an actual good thing. Rather be a slave to the Moors than be a slave to some Europeans. Right? Why? Even when you look at when it came over here, right? And you do the research on that, you found that there was Europeans over here in slavery too. It wasn't some limited thing to us only that, oh yeah, well, we're the slaves and Europeans are masters. No, there were Asiatics who were slave masters that had Europeans and Asiatics on their plantation picking whatever. They just realized, oh, well, we're not going to be these people's nigger and start calling themselves white people to get themselves out of that place of being a slave. And then we said, well, we're just going to stay as this, which is why we stayed in slavery.
That completes it.
Which is the mindset of an enslaved individual. That's where it is with regard to that. You know, so when the people say, well, what are we gonna do if there's no democracy? Then we're not gonna be able to have anybody to vote for. As soon as they start going there, you already know they're a slave. They're on the plantation. They dug their hole, they jumped in the hole, and then they covered themselves to the neck.
You know, they can't just understand me, being that I do not want to rule anybody, I don't want anybody to rule me.
Yeah.
So I just want to live and be.
But that's the fear that they have, that if we get back on top, it's going to be that same stuff that happened to their foremothers and forefathers.
But I think we must learn now. No, we must learn. We must learn. We learn through experience, eh? And well, if we're absolute people, but yes,
yeah, there's that balance there all the time.
You're right. So there's gonna be in between.
Good.
When did the ship change when we were masters and became slaves?
The reference point is always 1492. The reference point is always 1492. When the Moors lost power in the quote-unquote stronghold of Spain, then they lost power everywhere at that point. So that's why with the session that we did yesterday with the Pale Arab talking about, well, yeah, we castrated the Moors and we whatever and all this. Yeah, because the Moors had fallen at that point. So once you get out of power, if you were tyrannical or whatever like that, don't be mad when these people come for your head, because you should have been doing stuff righteously. So that, because you already know that the power is going to shift eventually. You know what I mean? History will tell us that whoever's in power doesn't stay in power forever. Eventually, you're going to fall off your horse, and people are going to be looking at, well, how were you treating people when you were on your horse? Oh, you were spitting on people while you passed by. Okay, well, when you get off that horse, we got something for you. And don't be mad. That's just the balance. The same thing with everything's based in universal laws. Cause and effect is going to happen regardless of how we think or our opinions or assumptions or whatever. If there's action, there's going to be an equal or opposite reaction at all times. This is why Drew Ali told these Moors, intelligent tone at all times. Doesn't matter what they're saying, where they're going or whatever. You do with an intelligent tone, you'll probably have them more stressed out than you are, opposed to, you going back with them as the, F you and F you and then F you, and everybody's getting louder or whatever like that. When you deal with intelligent tone, these people be so frustrated that you're not getting to where they're at that they would yield. So it's, relative to the same thing, like the switch or the crossover or the change. Once we lost the power, the people who picked up the mantle of power that we had, they were like, we're never going back to those guys being masters again. We're not letting that happen. We'll kill ourselves and everybody and the dog and the birds and everybody before we go back in slavery to these people, which is what they're doing right now. And everything that they're doing right now is to keep themselves in that position of they're the master, and then everybody else is the serf or the slave or the property or whatever. And then the people who are taking that property position are accepting that as the reality. Oh well, this is where we're supposed to be, and we're talking about all these different monikers they use, the struggle continues and all that stuff to keep people in this perpetual mindset of slavery.
That sort of thing. Why would you want it to continue?
Yeah.
You want it to stop.
Yeah.
Stop. They try to sell in this loop.
Yeah.
And it's just from observation. you see that if you look, you see the repetitiveness. If you look into if you look into the future, if you look into the past and look into the future, you will see copy paste. You will see copy paste. And if you are seeing copy paste, what are you calling culture? What are you calling culture? You know, and it is so sad. It is so sad that when you are seeing these things, people are trying to hold you back from your vantage point where you can start and see what you're seeing. They put on their shades and don't want you to look down there. Because you look down there, you remind them that they need to look too.
Yeah, but which is why the Moorish Science Temple, so we can be around people who want to look that way. We don't need to be convincing anybody in here about, well, let's look over there and see what everybody's already looking over there. We already know where we're supposed to be at in our mindset. Going back again to, you know, where are we with regard to this? How are we looking at what it is that we're involved in? Are we looking at it as, oh, well, there's a building and come to the building or whatever? Are we looking at this as, you know, we're a nation? Are we looking at this as, you know, Moses is some religious guy and then we're just following him? Like, how is the lens that we're looking at this through? And once again, if the people have the right institutions and individuals in place so that they can get the right information, then they would have that right mindset of, oh, wow, rabbit hole, let's go and see what's going on. Not stand outside and speculate, well, I wonder what's in the rabbit hole and all this. No, how about you go check?
Because sometimes you might find a Moor who just find out that there are more and they are coming up on the rough side and they need that rope.
Yeah.
They need that rope. They don't want to when they come. You can imagine they come here with the last breath. They come here with the last breath.
Or if we use the example of people buying packages. Right? What if that's their last 5,000 they paid for a package that doesn't work?
You just give up the straw job. You walk out it when you realize that, hey, you're not going to be the same person. You cannot, your eyes cannot open and you go back to the same thing.
No, but the question is, were the eyes really open? Or were the eyes open with, you know what I mean, Yambi in the eye and stuff like that, the eyes closed down, there's beer crossing the eye, and they're talking about, yeah, more I could see stuff. No, you can't. Yeah, like you need to get all that stuff out of your eye first, wash your face, brush your teeth and all that stuff before you even start talking about I'm a Moor and let's go get some stuff done. Right? And then once you're going in blindly, then you already played yourself. Because guaranteed there's going to be pitfalls, potholes, might be a cliff or whatever like that. If you're blinded, you don't see that stuff. After you go over, then you're going to be blaming this doesn't work and Noah Ali didn't do it and all that, when it's really you. That you, whether it was you weren't with the right Moors so you can get the information that you need to get that stuff out of your eyes, or you took the position of I found this out and I'm just going down here because it seems like that Moor over there said that this is the way to go or whatever, and you never even checked that Moor to see if they even got stuff out their eyes yet. Blind leading the blind.
Do you think that too contributes to the fact that the spiritual disconnectivity? Because don't you think that if when you because I believe that when your eyes start opening, you have to fully wipe the blind from your eyes.
Yeah.
Because it comes in layers like a onion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then think about that. You know, how many layers have to come off before you can actually see? You're only gonna get that from the individuals who took off all the layers.
That's why we give thanks to people. That's why we give thanks to people like you, because I'm sure we can all appreciate it, that if we are actually looking towards self-salvation, we have to start at a point. And first it has to come to being self-righteous, identifying your own flaws and correcting that. So if you weren't being taught, you weren't eating out of the right place, or you didn't have the right, even if you have the right people to work, eating the right food, so you clean out the plate or the cup, whatever you call it, and now you go hunting for the food. When you go hunting for the food, bearing in mind that you do not have any starting point basically, you don't even know what you choose like. So when you have people now, like where the water, where we can get clean water now, from catch clean water, to come through the root of my tree. We can appreciate because me appreciate them all the way they call it dirty more so you want me appreciate them because it helps me to differentiate the good from the dirty.
Yeah.
Because we get the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are spiritually connected, the discernment will allow you to differentiate, and there's no issue finding who are you allowed the spirit. If your spirit is right, then your spirit will guide you to the right juice and the right spring water for your vine or your shrub.
Yeah.
Just a shrub, and you can reach vine yet
Yeah.
or whatever. So I appreciate about you doing that because it allowed me, because we went to do research. If we don't do research, then that means that we don't want the truth.
Yeah.
And when I go there, to be honest, I go for the bad. I go for the bad first. Because if I can rise over the bad, then it means that the truth will be much more palatable. Coming from that era that people said I must be scared of.
Right.
So you have to have your plan going in. You can't just go in
Just go in blind.
So, right. So if you coming into moorish science, you still have to come in with some amount of, and see that we never have nothing. Some coming with some amount of the invisible mechanic, some of the invisible friends. You have to come in with some of the invisible for the guidance. I mean the invisible guide then you being right with yourself and have nothing to worry about. Me not have no second thoughts if me in the right spot. Because I already fixed myself. So when we go out there, when the truth reach me, we know say the truth. And when the foolishness come, me can say, even if it because it will come so palatable like your own, or like the truth one, you know, I can go in a meditation and whatever come to you and say, hold on. You replay that back over. So but hold on, just that one thing where that person said. They can
that's sometimes all it is.
It's not tie back into the fight. It has to tie back in. And if it's not tie back into it, then they know what it is.
And that's why we were saying with today about calling this what mores are you aligning with? Like who you aligning with? Because you can align with individuals who the stuff sounds good. And the things are working and whatever. But what does your spirit say about that? Is there no response from your higher being with regard to the presentation? If there's no response, then you're probably in some issues. Right? You're supposed to like when we initially came into this, all you had was righteous morals. You didn't have dirty morals. It wasn't even a thought that, those morals over there, you don't deal with them. Every moor you go to, them morals, you can deal with them. You can deal with those morals. You can deal with those morals. You can buy books from those morals. Those morals are going to lead you right. There wasn't this idea like how it is today, that there's people selling packages and there's people who they're just trying to get over on their brother and sister or whatever. That stuff didn't exist. This is something that we know came about over time. And the only reason that it came about is because of the individuals who were getting the information, weren't fact-checking who they were getting their stuff from. They just thought, Fez, Turban, those are Moors, so I'm going to go to them and go learn. Nobody never mentioned these people before. Nobody bought their website before. All of a sudden, they pop up and they're the number one people to go to for whatever it is.
Sorry, and the views, they use the views because the buy the views and push it up. You can, a lot of them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And because it's a season for people coming for truth, they're all over. It is so distasteful to see them all over there trying to hustle the people and spirits, drain them energy.
Yeah. And again, the idea of the truth about your nationality and birthrights is going to be from people who are active in their nationality and birthrights. It's not going to be from talkers. It's not going to be from views people or likes people or hearts people or whatever. It's going to be from individuals who are boots to the ground and are active in this. Now, we tell Moors all the time, they're going to go online and look for Moors and say, oh yeah, those Moors or whatever. And then we can go to, I go in my phone and pull 10 Moors that I'll put to debate anybody out here called themselves scholar. And these Moors never had a YouTube video. These Moors never put out anything that they're doing. They never did anything, right? They don't have a face or a name or a building or anything like that. They're just some Moors that know that they're Moors. We'll put all those people out and we'll put them, you just name them. We'll put a Moor against every one of those people. And just because of that, those individuals' reference points that they're going to be using, or who they used as their guide to be the Moors that they are, they'll walk these people up, because it's not something, you know, far-fetched or so hard to get. It's a real simple concept. We're not Negro, black, colored, we're Moors. And then once you find out that you're Moors, then well, who are the Moors? And then once you do research on the Moors, then it's all about being after that. There ain't nothing else to do.
Listen, if a person said they are Moor and they have their identification card or whatever, shouldn't they be easily right? Well, shouldn't it be easy for them to walk someone through the process that they walk through, you know, up to the point when they receive their identification card?
It depends on where they get that from. So, for example, if we use Yassine Bey, for example, most deaf, right? He came into this information. He started putting Nova Jwali on his album covers and all this, right? He tried to go somewhere, got caught up because he had a passport that wasn't a US passport, that came from some other people, right? Now, guaranteed somebody told him, go to those guys to go get, you know, your passport. Go to these guys, right? The individuals who he went to are just some Europeans. It ain't like the stuff doesn't work or they can't use it or whatever, but it's a conflict of interest because you're a Moor. Why would you as a Moor, who are the rulers of the ports, go to some European to get a passport when you rule the port? It's a contradiction. Right? It's a contradiction. There's no way you can serve two masters and think you're going to get out on the other side. Right? Especially if, because we already know he wasn't doing no reserving of rights or anything like that. We already know people just put their name on stuff just because they think this is a great idea.
I was asking somebody to explain to me the process of how their process, to just walk me through the process of them getting the ID, you do the study, after the study, they study the whole website, they study, and after the study, what next? And they can't tell me what next after the study. What did you study, now you have a card. What did you do from point of study to the card? What took place?
Yeah, because they didn't go through the process like that. They heard you can go here and get a card, and then they went to this place, they got a card or got a travel thing or whatever, without having knowledge of anything relative to what's going on. Just like we're talking about with the consular court, right? These people came out and said, we're the Moorish consulate or whatever. Everybody come to us because we're the ones or whatever. And then they take Taj Bey's face, they put his face on there, and they make it seem as if
They take somebody else's face.
they make it seem as if this is where it's at. Now, everybody who is a student of Taj Bey saw that and they ran over there. Went and got cards, got paperwork done. Matter of fact, somebody sent paperwork today. They sent paperwork. No, this is how the confusion is going on, right? Somebody sent us paperwork today, right? We being that we're a temple, being that we're a body of Moors, we have the ability to, get Moors to witness each other's paper, seal the paper, whatever, as far as the process goes, right? They sent us the paperwork from the consulate people for us to seal the consulate people's paperwork. That we know, based on the insignia on it or whatever, that's not the stuff that we use. That's the stuff that some other people use. Now, how would they, first of all, how they get that paperwork, where they get that from, and then how did they connect us to that stuff that we have nothing to do with? Right? How are the individuals that we know are corrupt or whatever, that we don't want anything to do with these people because we know that they're corrupt, but people are sending the corrupt people's paperwork to us for us to seal it and then send it back to them, but they never sent the paperwork to the people who they apparently got it from. Because the concept that people have is a card and a paper and a whatever makes you a Moor. So all I gotta do is go out here and find a card or the paper, or I don't care what's on it. I just want to have something that says Moor on it. Okay, well, if that stuff's coming from a pedophile, like we were saying, and you're using that stuff from the pedophile, then that means you're down with pedophilia. I don't care what paperwork says or whatever. I don't care I don't care whose signature is on it. The idea of not fact checking people is what the issue is. Checking people's background. If they're claiming that they're a Moorish leader of whatever, what's the background? Who knows you?
Yeah, but the person who is the pretender is also stupid. Because it is going to backfire. It doesn't work because you must find out that they're impersonating.
Yeah, but think about it like this.
But the amount of person
not,
scam by the time you find out the amount of person.
Then it's not a backfire for them. Because if one person finds out that they're a fraud, but 20 people go with them and get the paper and pay for whatever like that, then
One is not.
right?
Yeah,
that's nothing.
Oh my goodness, it's just
You know what I
one
mean?
thing. Yeah.
Right? And then the individual who gets played or whatever like that, they're not going back to those people and kick their ass or whatever for playing them. They're just gonna, love is the first principle and love the Moors and all that stuff when they just got played. Right?
Because neither just thinks that everybody just be good. They just think that everybody is just be good and sometimes circumstances make them go into a whatever. Me just believe that everybody at that person why you're supposed to do good to others because they want to do it to others. Need it so naive.
Yeah. Well, but again, these are all the things that Drew Ali presented to us. Everything that we need to save a nation, he brought. And then nobody's taking the stuff to save a nation. Everybody's going to these Moors out here who claim that they're whatever, and then that's what they're using in order to save themselves.
Yeah, because when I read it, and this is my second time.
Mhm.
When I read, I was like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's like reading like he's trying to teach the men about me.
Yep.
That's what I think is like the men is like him trying and he's trying to teach the men about me, and because some men are so disconnected from their mother.
Mhm.
And because they're so disconnected from mama, they're off balance to the point where you find that some of them even try control the mama and not try control themselves.
And they're not just disconnect from mom as in the womb that they came out of, but disrespect from nature, which is a mother, disconnected from the universe, which is a mother, disconnected from their mind, which is a mother, right? So you're going to have that imbalance.
Balance in Jamaica, they is sorry.
They ain't just there.
Because the Jamaican man have a concept, trust me, as a woman to survive Jamaica and reach at a certain point to take skills and some invisible powers. Take it from me. Because I have when you reach certain point in your life and you hear men talking about women, in the tone and the way they're talking about women. Not stop a young man with them and come out and be clean. No. Because he's like to forget saying in the car.
Yeah.
So it's like reading when I read it. I started reading. I don't even know if I get the correct copy. I think because there was the one that I was reading, it seemed like somebody typed like the PDF that I got, and because I come across some typos and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it's aside from even the missing stories of Jesus, which I really appreciate those the answer they call the
Lessons,
some sort of balance
yeah.
to some of the questions
Yeah.
that I have. But really, and it's me. I was not incorrect in when I said to my son, "Sorry, if you don't mind bringing this up, because trust me, this is another way."
Yeah.
And my son and I, we were conflict. We were being conflicted since he was like a little baby. And grow up to see a mother and a father have a perfect union. But me and my son was, until he's here now, to the point where he just dropped. But we're having this beautiful relationship now. And how did I get it that word? When he come at me and I go out and I said, look here, understand me. Just understand me and you understand you.
Yeah.
Because you look at the Jamaican thing, me a bad man and me a, they separate yourself from the feminine energy so much that if you see the weakness, if you see an inch of your mother, you look at the man in Jamaica, they see a little bit of the mother in them and they detest it.
Yeah.
Because of the system down here, big up the man, them prowess and ridicule the woman.
Yeah.
So how we have salvage like all that, salvage that.
Yeah.
Because we really want to salvage, we don't really love to see salvage while I am still in this body.
Yeah. Brother Omar.
I just wanted to respond to something you're saying because some of the thoughts, and Kubo and I were talking about this earlier, that all life comes to a woman. So if you guys don't want life to continue, life doesn't continue. So one of the things that I have an issue with, and I remember growing up with some of my European friends who very much treated women the same way you're talking how, because I come from Jamaica as well, or my father comes from there, and he was emulating those same things. But one of the things that I have, or I'm experiencing an issue with, is women taking responsibility for their actions, because ultimately, what I've seen, including myself and my family, are a whole bunch of broken families. Some people will say they're not broken, that they're something else, but broken from the perspective that the father and the mother aren't there. It's two energies. Yet, at some point, that empress lay down with this guy. Now, unless she was tied up in whatever, she willingly went there. And then they're looking at the situation afterwards and wondering why this happened. But I think to myself, 9 times out of 10, when you sit down and talk with these people, they'll always tell you all these stories about all this stuff that he did, and yet they still lay down and copulated with this individual and created life.
Yes, we understand.
So to me, one of the things, and I've been seeing it now with my empress's offspring, from the perspective that it's the indoctrination process. You have not been given the value system that you need to be given to make the right choices, so we can blame you for that. I mean, we can blame ourselves for that, but there's a certain point where I feel that most of these empresses know something's up, and they still continue down that road.
I agree with you.
And my issue is this, that we have to all take responsibility for the things that we've done. Because it doesn't, I see a lot of this finger pointing, but then as I said, the stuff is still going on in the hood. Stuff is still going on in the block.
And getting worse.
And getting worse.
And that is why we can't afford the finger pointing. We have to just analyze. Because looking back truthfully and analyzing as from a personal experience. From a personal experience. And so what he's saying is correct, because I do not have any female friend coming from my childhood. Next month is my birthday, I am 51. I do not have no female friends coming from my childhood. I only have one sister, and we all look at each other.
Right.
To the point where I strongly believe that within oneself, if one did come here to embrace mobility, give and take the situation where embrace mobility. I grew up with my mother had 9 of us, 8 girls and 1 boy. Me and my sister makes it 1. She only have 1 son like myself. Because when I look around me, you know from a very tender age, I knew from a very tender age that I will be self-sufficient, I will be independent of men. I'm going to tell my mother that was a joke going on. I will be independent of men, not to the point where that I do not want to be around men, but independent of men, whereas in Jamaica, where that you have to grow up and get a good man. So you see where that indoctrination comes. I have rescued young women, send them finish school because their mother, I put them out here. At 18, at 17, 18, when I got to my father to go further with my education, they said at 18 you can't marry. I have heard men in Jamaica sit down, because we are little girls, so they say, never look at tomboy, so the body now appear in your mind. I've heard men say them now, send them that at a certain point, man, but first day. So navigating the waters of Jamaica wasn't easy. But there are some women who allow themselves to be lowered to the lowest points, to the point where you, as a woman looking down on them, then seek your stomach to dry them out. But the man will keep them while they're down there. Then the other one, I think them people need to read 3, 4 times greater. The one that will keep the woman, they will know themselves down there. Because if they know themselves and down in the morning, you know them more than them know themselves. And that is why I ask some of the man where I lie down some of the woman will know themselves and the man will know themselves. Even some of the Rasta man in Jamaica will know truth. How can you know truth about mama nature and you as some mama be like how the slave master treated you to you?
And that's the whole idea of, just like what you're talking about with them and the democracy, right? Them thinking that what they have is the all and be all, and there can't be anything greater than this. If there's something greater than this, then we never heard of it, and we're not even gonna go try to see if it's something legitimate or whatever. When you're supposed to, once you know, you're supposed to evolve, and then you're supposed to help other people around you evolve. You're not supposed to know and keep the
advantage, right? This can help you come out and this can it mean going back to yourself.
Yeah.
Because the truth will set you free. It make you free yourself through your will, right? Is that right?
yeah, which is again going back to, you know, as soon as you are presented with some type of information, more so from Moorish perspective, and the people who are presenting it are not giving you Noble Drew Ali. They don't even have his picture on their website. Do not consider these people as credible Moors to align yourself with. Because if they're not giving you his lessons that was brought to save everybody, then what they got? They know more stuff than the Prophet. If they know more stuff than the Prophet, then they need to go check themselves. And that's the presentation that they have.
Isn't there a Moorish court? Is there a Moorish court? Don't you have a court system that we can like bring up these people to?
No.
No?
No.
Because they might probably put blockage in it. Because no, it's a wake up time.
Yeah.
How many people wake up and you don't want to spend another way like a block the vision for the people. The people, somebody might come up read and come up breathless from the rough side and the other side, you know. I try and make it.
Yeah, like even when you talk about things like Moorish court, right? People are Moors. Moors are looking at us like we're causing division by calling out people who are doing wrong stuff with this information, right? What do you think will happen when we start taking these people and stringing them up somewhere? Because it's not like it's not something that can't go down. There's Moors that we say, hey, go deal with these people, they go deal with them. It's not a far-fetched thing, right? But the repercussions of that is not worth the, because if there's Moors like that have that kind of heart, right? Then we need them out here. We don't need them behind some cellar or whatever like that because, you know, some dirty Moor. Let those dirty Moors do whatever they do. We show people, hey, that's them over there. If people want to go to them, hey, do your thing. But don't think that you're going to go to them and then you're going to come to us and then we're going to be looking at you like, oh yeah, we're brothers and all this stuff. But you just went to the traders. Like we're not looking at you like that. You know, we might glimpse and say, okay, what's up, Islam or whatever. But it's not any love like that. Because again, we come from the generation where there weren't dirty Moors. When we were around, there was only righteous Moors that had anything out there to present to people, right? You had the RV Bay website, you had the Taj Bay books, you had the Hakeem Bay books, you had Alim Bay with Washita, you had Grand Sheet Nature. Before she went corrupt, you had Queen Valhara, and that was it. There wasn't any all these Moors out there like you're seeing. Every Moor has a website and all that stuff wasn't going on in 2008. It wasn't going on.
Because the first time I really come across was like when you send down there on the RDB website too. And you know, you not going to look at this. Like going to Ireland.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You sit down there, so take it. You can spend a whole decade in this service.
And that's what our mission was with regard to this information. That when you're getting into this, the first place you go to is rvbaypublications.com. You don't go anywhere else. If you want to go anywhere else, that's on you. Don't, you know what I mean? Because we've had those situations. People go somewhere else, and then they're coming to us with some stuff they got from somewhere else. And we're like, we ain't send you to go to them. Where you going? This is how we even found out that there's all these people out here that are playing games with people.
There's this thing I saw where this person, this Facebook really talking about some debts, redemption or something.
Yeah, discharge debts and whatever it is. Yeah, just another con game by somebody with a turban or a fez, right? Who knows better. It's not like these people don't know better. They know better. They're willingly taking the position of cause confusion. They're willingly taking the position of not give the honors to where the honors are due. Right? And again, Juali took the position of presenting us uplifting fallen humanity, and then humanity was written on the woman. So it was really talking about uplifting the mother, right? Now, if the RV Bay site was founded by a mother, and people are talking crazy about that site, they're talking crazy about mother. If they're talking crazy about mother, they can't be mad when the sons of a mother deal with the matters. They can't be upset. They have to accept what the position that they've took on. Just like we said with consulate. They put Taj Street Bay's face on their website. We know they put his face on their website. We know that for the past 5-6 months, Taj Street Bay hasn't even mentioned consular court in any lectures that he's done on House of Reawakening Minds.
Who's he? Who's Taj?
Or when you look him up,
Is I know I did some research.
you see that, he's a Moorish elder. He's one of the Moorish elders who is really about
he was the first
this work
that I saw that I listened to online.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything from him.
He has some stuff out now on this House of Reawakening Minds is the YouTube page. Right? Oh no, it's all good. Today's question, no worries. Right? So we have like we're using the example of them that what they were setting up, they went around and tried to recruit different Moors to be taking different positions in Moorish consulate, right? Myself and a few other Moors dialogued, and the first question is, who are these people? Where do these people come from? Does anybody know these people? Nobody knows who these people are. Okay, well, if we don't know who they are, then we're not riding with it like that. That's just what it is, right? Our thing is, and Omar talks about this too, our thing is about participation and do we see, right? Because people could participate without being seen. But do we see? Are you on the grounds? When we make the call, are you there? Right? When calls were being made for Moors to do A, B, C, D, none of these people that are in quote-unquote Moorish consulate right now, none of these people were present. The only face I know up there is Taj Bay's face. And I don't even know if that's his picture like that up there. That could be some stuff they got off something, cut out the background and just put his face up there and people think that that's him. Just like people go on Facebook and they're messaging, well, I messaged Taj Bay on Facebook and he never got back to me. Well, it's probably because it's not him. More than likely, it's not him.
Seeing different Moorish cropping up on Facebook, but they're making themselves a little bit more private now, so you have to do it.
Yeah, because
They know that until
they know
much men.
they know that they're on borrowed time. So if they make it private, it appears as if this is some closed door thing and they know what's going on and they're not putting it out to, no, they're probably some packaged other people. Because if we look at the template that you're supposed to, or the standard that you're supposed to follow when you get into this information, majority of people would yield and not have anything to do with this because of what it takes to really, if you really want to be down with this, what you really got to face if you're down with this, right? You know, because this is about how you're qualified by your time. If a guy just came yesterday and you never seen them ever before, and now they're the consular general of the whatever, I ain't seen you before. How are you a general of something? How come so-and-so is not a general? How come when I talk to so-and-so, they said, no, I'm not even doing a part of that. And then you're the guy that got chosen? No, something's up with this. Something's up. And there's just little things that, you know, like you're saying, there's little things that you would pick up on. You know what I mean? Like from the start of consular court, you know, majority of Moors who are active and they have a certain mindset, first thing is, where's this guy's fez at? How come he's not wearing no fez? Like, what do you mean you're a consular general, you have no fez on, you have no turban or whatever, you just got bald head only, that's it? Nothing? You're the general of whatever, and we got to check something out. This can't be really right and exact, because if we're representing the Moorish nation and we're representing the consulate for the Moors and the head guy isn't wearing a fez, people's antennas, and if people's antennas not going up, then that says something. That says something. Where are these people's minds at? You know, how somebody you know, how somebody gonna, you know, like we say with the Moors out here, how are they gonna find the $5,000 package selling Moors before they find us? When the package selling people used to be here.
Exactly, because if you, a lot of Christians come up in the mind, because remember, you know, to find 5,000 people there, it take exceptional skill, because when you change the lifestyle, you minimize your quota, your shed. So when we use shedding, so you know, another leak at the same time you're shedding, because then you can leave money. As a clean up all your clean up, you have a need, so you have a share, so you need to be absolutely pure. You can't just pump one diagram or something. And the thing about it, remember, is the knowledge is coming from a pure place, it is expensive. When it has come back to that, as a pure, if you're a teacher, just like any other profession, and you love what you do, and somebody come in desperate need of what the service that you offer, desperate, you know what you're doing. You're not going to jump, that's not a take all the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to jump to do that which you love to do.
Right.
So the person who come in with ask for the 5,000, yes, the 5 grand or whatever, and just probably just start saying more. Him no send him minimize you know. Him minimize and cut back say more money because look at the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Him going to try to scam the desperate man. So what are they going to make him? Him going to answer to karma. You can't try to scam a desperate man. And say you're righteous. In a righteous time. A righteous time, no. Are you actually in a righteous time? What you need to do with it?
Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 5. After the feast, the homeward journey, the missing Jesus, the search for him, his parents find him in the temple. He goes with them to Nazareth, symbolic meaning of the carpenter's tools. The great feast of Pasch was ended. and the Nazarenes were journeying toward their homes. And they were in Samaria, and Mary said, "Where is my son?" No one had seen the boy. And Joseph sought among their kindred who were on their way to Galilee, but they had seen him not. Then Joseph, Mary, and a son of Zebedee, returned and sought through all Jerusalem, but could not find him not. And Mary asked the guards, had they seen Jesus, a little boy about 12 years old? The guards replied, yes, he is in the temple now, disputing with the doctors of law. And they went in and found him as the guards had said. And Mary said, why, Jesus? Why do you treat your parents thus? Lo, we have sought 2 days for you. We feared that some great harm had overtaken you. And Jesus said, do you not know that I must be about my Father's work? But he went round and pressed the hand of every doctor of the law and said, I trust that we meet again. And then he went forth with his parents on their way to Nazareth. And when he reached their home, he wrought with Joseph as a carpenter. One day, as he was bringing forth the tools for work, he said, these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thoughts and where we build up character. We use the square to measure all our lines, to straighten out the crooked places of the way, and to make the corners of our conduct square. We use the compass to draw the circles around our passions and desires to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. We use the axe to cut away the naughty, useless, and ungainly parts and make the character symmetrical. We use the hammer to drive home the truth and pound it in until it is part of every part. We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surface of joint and block and board and go to build the temple for truth. The chisel line, the plummet, and the saw have their uses in the workshop of the mind. And then this ladder, with its trinity of steps, faith, hope, and love, and on it we climb up to the dome of purity of life. And on the 12-step ladder we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of perfected man. So all the individuals that are being brought into this, or whether they themselves found their way into this, there's work that needs to be done. And the work that's done is first on self. The work that's done is first on man realizing certain things about self. And to come to the realization of these things, you have to know that you're about our Father's work, which in this case, we're talking about Juali and what he did, right? We're about that work before we're about anything else. Before we're about sell a package, we're about putting over Juali stuff up. Before we're about sell somebody a card or sell somebody some travel document, we're about putting over Juali's information out. Before we're about all these other holy books and the metaphysics of the whatever like that, we're about the Holy Quran, Moorish Science Temple. Before, baseball hat and all that stuff, we're about pheasant turban. Before we're about any other principle that anybody's talking about, we're about love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Once we get to that place within self, then the other things are gonna revolve around you. They're no different than sun out there and then planets revolving around that, and the sun is the nucleus. It's the same thing with self. That one self goes through all these things right here. Use the square to measure all your lines, right? Use the square to measure all your lines, right? All your lines being the things that you project out your mouth, all the lines that you put out there. Make sure that everything is 90 degrees. There could be no dispute once you use the square to make sure the line's straight. Right? Dealing with carpentry. You have a lopsided building or whatever, they probably didn't have their tools. Right? Measure the lines, straighten out the crooked places of the way. Right? The crooked places are these individuals that we're talking about that have some little corner over here saying that's the moorish, whatever, you go there. As soon as you draw the lines or whatever like that, you know that where the crooked spots are at. And then once you recognize the crooked spots, that you stay away from those spots. Well, that's obviously not where it's at because they haven't been using their tools, right? Make the corners of our conduct square. Right? Juali told Moors that it's the free national standards that make a man. Free national standards is based on your conduct. How are you as a Moor? Are you one of these people that's just, yeah, we're Moors and, eating pork and all this type of stuff? Not really. Not really right and exact. You're off in what you think this is about, right? We use the compass to draw circles around our passions and desires and keep them in the bounds of righteousness. Like Mother was saying earlier, it's supposed to be automatic that we're dealing with righteousness as Moors. It's not even a question of are we going to be righteous. Should we be righteous as Moors? It's not even a question. That's just supposed to be what it is off the top. Because once you go through Noble Drawley's literature and you read all this thing, you realize how righteous he was. When you go through the Chicago Defender newspaper articles on Moorish Science Temple, Noble Drawley and all that, and you're seeing he's meeting with governors and he's meeting with what? Obviously these people know who the Moors are. Obviously they're having issues with Moors if Prophet's going to meet with the governor. If the Prophet's getting invited to the president's inauguration and all that stuff, obviously they don't have an issue with Moors. So how is it that people today have an issue with Moors? Probably because people not dealing with Noble Drawley from the perspective that he was dealing with himself. That he was a statesman. He wasn't a religious leader for black guys to think that they got some nation or they have some type of building where they can go to. His presentation was directly to get us out of mental slavery. And then once we get out of mental slavery, then we can start taking the steps necessary to save the nation and ourselves. Because the reason why we can't figure anything out, because everybody has mental slavery. Just like you're saying with the whole thing, it's not just in Jamaica, this is across the board that there's this patriarchal ideal that our people have and not recognizing that they have that position. And then, when democracy violates them and anarchy and tyranny and all this stuff, they're not looking at, oh, it's probably because we've been violating the feminine principle. Why all the stuff is out of whack. Not that those guys are evil and those guys are Illuminati and those guys are the secret society or whatever, and those guys, no, it's because of patriarchy. It's because of people having mental slavery and not realizing that that's what it is. Right? Because we have to be strung up on the thing, and then we're not saying Toby when they beat. We say Kunta Kente to the death. You're not gonna be, that lash was kind of hard, so we're gonna say Toby. Because you're supposed to already have all the things that to make everything square and all the
last breath I couldn't have been this.
Right? We use the axe to cut away the naughty, useless, and ungainly parts and make the character symmetrical. Right? That's what you're talking about. Well, the naughty, useless, ungainly parts are these Moors out here that's causing confusion. And we're supposed to use the axe to get rid of those things. That's what we're supposed to do. We can't, because, you know, start doing crazy, people are going to get crazy. They're going to get into their emotionalism. Why are Moors doing that and all that stuff? And then you need to have them calling highwaymen on you for doing the right thing of getting rid of the naughty, useless, and ungainly parts. That it's in the lessons that we need to get rid of that. It's not Kudro's opinion. This is in the lessons that, hey, hold on a second, there's ungainly parts. If there's things that are hampering the movement, we need to use the axe and get rid of those things, because they're causing the movement to be stagnated, right? The idea of we were bringing up the whole thing with war and the origin or the etymology of war being confusion. And everybody's looking at war like, yeah, guns and all that stuff, bombs, planes flying over, dropping bombs. That's not what it is, right? We use the hammer to drive home the truth and pound it in until it is part of every part, right? We use the hammer to drive home the truth. So if we're using the hammer, truth's probably a nail, more than likely, right? Now, you know, what kind of nail you got? You got the little, you know, the little wall nail, or you got the, you know, the steel beam nail. And we're hammering in that into every part, so it is part of every part, so that truth is in everything. Everywhere you look, there should be a nail hammered in. When you're looking at the scope of the Moorish paradigm. And as soon as you go to some people and they're saying they're Moors and there's no truth there, and no truth being that they don't have no picture of no Wujwali, guys don't have fezzes on, they're telling you about, you know, do not, we're gonna put you on the do not detain list because, you know what I mean, we're the Moors. What do you mean, whose list, whose do not detain list is that? I bet you it's the colonizers list. And the colonizer, if you're on the do not detain colonizers list, then obviously you're not the sovereign. Because why would you be on their list? How come you don't have a list? So we have the Moorish list. Do not detain these Moors, and then send that to them about don't detain. Right? They're telling you that they're going to put you on some colonizers list, and then you're going to go buy their papers. Right? We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surface of the joint and block and board that go to build the temple for truth, right? So rough, uneven surfaces, again, just like an axe, we're talking about a blade. Now you take the blade and you smooth out the uneasy parts, the uneven parts. There's unevenness in the Moorish movement because of people making, you know, people, it's supposed to be a free lane or whatever, and then you have Moors put speed bumps on the highway, and then people are talking about, yeah, this is what it's about. You're not supposed to have speed bumps on the highway. This is supposed to be a smooth run, right? The chisel line, the plummet, and the saw have all their uses in the workshop of the mind, right? The chisel, a blade again, right? The line, the plummet, to make sure that this thing is balanced, make sure that this thing is not going to have any type of imbalances because it's set up to be like that. It's not our opinion. There's lessons that were put in place in order for us to get this stuff right. And opposed to take the lessons that we were given to get this right, we're going over here with these Moors over here because, you know, they created some document that, oh, there's a flag on it and flags are waving on it and all that. And there's a stamp in the corner, and oh my gosh, these guys must know what they're talking about. And then nobody even fact check. Okay, well, where does a stamp on a document come from? Like, where does that come from? And then if you say that we're, supposed to be not with U.S and all that stuff, why are you using the U.S stamp? Shouldn't you use that Morocco stamp or something like that? Why would you use a colonizer stamp on your stuff, right? That in your document you're talking about, the debt and all this stuff and discharge and whatever like that, but you just paid for the stamp, even if it's 2 cents. But then there's no. So hold on a second. So they took pennies out of circulation, but they got 2-cent stamps though. And they think that something's right here, right? And then this ladder, with its trinity of steps, faith, hope, and love, on it we climb up to the dome of purity of life, right? And again, if you're climbing up to the dome, the ladder has to be the spinal cord. The ladder that you're climbing, if the dome is where the pinnacle is where we're trying to get to, the dome is the crown. The dome is the head. And if we're climbing up, we're talking about energy raising and all that. We're not talking about, there's a ladder and then we're on the ladder as Moors and we're going up the ladder to try to find salvation. All that stuff is within. As soon as they make that an external thing, watch those Moors talking crazy. They're bringing ladders out and stuff like that, telling you, yeah, let's get to salvation, climb the ladder. Yeah, and then Moors going on the ladder like, yeah, we found the salvation because we're on the ladder. No, you didn't. Yeah, right? You just played yourself out of salvation. And on the 12-step ladder, we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of perfected man. If anybody has any other thoughts on that, you can throw those out.
Well, why is it 12 steps in the ladder?
Say it again.
Why is there 12 steps in the ladder?
Look at it as with the vertebrae, you have the 33. So they make 33 to that. With the 12, you're looking at the astrological. You're looking at the 12 cranial nerves. You're looking at anything in harmony with that is the 12-step ladder, right? The zodiac being, we can say that we're Taurus sun, but we're also a moon, which is a different sign. And then we're also a rising, which is a different sign. And then ascendant is a different sign. And then whatever is a different sign. And then you realize, hold on a second, like we make up half the zodiac as a being. By the time you do your whole natal chart, you found that you got something in every house, which governs you in some way, shape, or form. So, the 12 looking at being, don't leave out things. The 12 steps is so that even if you look at it like when they say you got anger management, they got 50-step program and all that stuff. You're going through the program of getting yourself to purity of life and building the temple of perfected man. Right? Like we say with the Circle 7.
Which I was on Netflix and I was just listening to the little history that they had about the United States war and how they dropped all the bombs, Hiroshima and all that stuff. And at one point, I don't think it was Mr. Churchill or I'm pretty sure it was Churchill, but he mentioned what you just said there at the end in terms of perfected man. Mm-hmm. He was saying that they have perfected man, and I understood that it was in the sense of their mind and not science of in that sense, not physiological, but in the mind first to make any physiological change. Mm-hmm.
but he did say that how much that what does he mean by perfected man? It was clear that that's
And again, and going back again to why the 7 in the broken circle is on the Quran, because the 7 is perfected man. The 7 is man perfecting himself. Like a 7 is the number of perfection. And then 9 is completion, right? And 8 is infinity. So he's telling you from the cover that you're already at perfection, right? Like if we go to what is Islam? Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties toward God Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. So that's Islam. Man recognizing his duties, which you're talking about with that humanitarian, righteous perspective, with the Most High, his creator. So God's creator, right? Which again is another lesson that they're giving you. If God's the creator, then obviously Allah is not the supreme. If something created it, and his fellow creatures, right? Which means from the ant to the being, right? So it tells you that you step on an ant, you shake the throne of Allah. Now, some of them you're not going to be able to prevent. Some ants are going to get stepped on. You're not going to be, just like,
Especially around that bite.
I have a question. A simple one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I noticed the circle going around the 7.
Mm.
It's broken. It's circle broken.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, so the grace for beauty. That's what causes right. Looking. Why did it?
Well, look at if you take out if you put that in it, right? Now it becomes the master seal, and then you could do your research on the master seal. Master's seal, a circle with a cross in it, right? Now Now the indigenous people also use that as the dream catcher. The circle with the cross in it, and it might have like some other stuff in it, and then they have the feathers on the bottom, right? The dream catcher, right? But with regard to this, the different quadrants are the east, west, north, south,
Okay.
or the 4 elements of creation that make up the being. Because we are earth, air, fire, water in this. Right.
it's perfected man inside of that.
So the 7 is man perfected.
Perfect. Okay, why I ask you yes on like a simple testimony this. Yes, you find anything in your idiosyncrasies and you see it. Because I've been trying that ever since. I'm always like I know when I do my circle, I'm always putting the like if I see a circle I would put it right. So I was wondering why.
Right, and then some people take it and then they take those lines and then they make it an 8 and then say anarchy. They corrupt the energy, right? Or lesbians took the ankh and now they say that's a feminine symbol or whatever. When that doesn't belong to lesbians, but that's not theirs. As like how because. But again, they can do that. They can do that because our people abandoned it. Our people took it, which was their stuff, just like the obelisk was ours, and we don't want it. So they took it, they put it in Washington, D.C., they put it in the Vatican, they put it all over the world as now their stuff, right? We didn't want our ancient foremothers and forefathers culture of ancient Egypt. So people went there, blew the nose off or whatever, paint over stuff, have everything looking European now. Because we abandoned it, not because they took it or stole it or whatever. We abandoned it, and they only picked up what it is that we abandoned.
One thing, didn't Tosh say that the circle with the cross inside it represents the cliff? It's a symbol for Earth.
Yes, yeah, it's an earth symbol.
Or
Right.
like these things are like from civilizations or times before us. Once there's a flood and then there's need to be multiplied again, then these things are already written and left. They're inscribed, and so these things are inscribed in stone and temples and all
I
that.
got first experience with this symbol in 1989. I first saw one of these symbols. It was given to me in Contradictions by my friend as well. And that means like they keep stealing, some close member of the family keeps stealing that ring. Keep stealing that ring and I keep getting it back, and I keep getting it back. And the last time I found it from another person. I saw another person wearing the ring. I said, that is mine. And you know, who they said they got it from was a close family member. And that ring disappeared for years. I'm still married. But I know I told myself, not knowing all of this, because a lot of my stuff is I search through my dadness and right. So I start somewhere I told myself with the bamboo. And so I start making them for myself, and I take off the cosmetic, the other stuff, and I start. So now you're telling me that this.
Yeah, just like somebody said in the shot, they took the chakra colors, put it upside down, and made the gay flag.
Yeah, like naturally, like red is a frequency where the light is the lowest frequency. That's why when you use a remote, it's infrared because it takes less energy to shoot the red light. So the order that the light ascends from the frequency, started red, the lowest frequency, ultraviolet or purple at the top.
So I'm like, we hear like, because you know, when everyone is associated with something, if you have certain level of appearance, certain things, you know, I see it associated somewhere else, yet you know, you distance yourself.
Yeah.
These people wicked.
Yeah. But again, is it their wickedness or is it our incompetence?
That's
Right?
both.
Because
it's both.
you know,
It's both.
because if we kept the stuff, they wouldn't be able to take it and do whatever
But
they
I
want.
kept it, but you don't want to go through. You don't want to be fierce wearing that.
Yeah.
And certain things.
Yeah.
And the labels they will get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you ever label me, if you ever see me, you ever call me, you label me, and you never question me, yes, me it.
Yeah.
I got people calling me you follow Lucifer, and I'm like, yeah, you're right.
We know when we just construct or something, we never get it. But the greatest point in me getting it is that all of us will do a damn is
Yeah.
all of us done right the God, never saw.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that. No, because I explain more into that way. I'll do that. Lucifer means like there. I'll break down the word and say,
I have something that will tell me that. Some people say, my son and my Jesus are good friends. I tell them, my Lucifer and my Jesus are very good friends. Then they comforted together. So
That'll get you called the devil.
Because you just say your higher self is your self every man.
yeah, that's what the comfortable because like one don't make the move.
The other without the other.
And one is the one where one come forward and it keep action the right person shut up and sit quiet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the thing about it that I'm crazy because I need to charge it to myself because a lot of I speak loud to my keep quiet and shut up, not this time.
Yeah. That's when you got that truth.
Mm-hmm.
It requires man to recognize his duties toward God Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is preeminently the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything, peace with Allah and peace with man. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word or sinful discourse will be heard. The holy divine prophet Noble Jew Ali says that a follower of Islam in the true sense of the word is one whose hands, tongue, and thoughts do not hurt others. The object of man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. Islam does not support the idea that man was born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or mar his fortune. The cardinal doctrine of Islam is the unity of the Father Allah. We believe in one God, Allah who is all God, all mercy and all power. He is perfect and holy, all wisdom, all knowledge, and all truth. These are some of his great attributes so far as we can understand. He is free from all defects, holy and transcendent. He is personal to us in so far as we see his attributes working for us and in us. But he is nevertheless impersonal because he is infinite, perfect, and holy. We do not believe that death, decay, or sleep overtake him. Neither do we believe that he is a helplessly inactive and inert force. Nothing happens without his knowledge and will. He neither begets nor is he begotten, because these are the trails of frail and weak humanity. This unity of Allah is the first and foremost pillar of Islam, and every other belief hangs upon it. Right, so the abode of man is the house of peace, and the house of peace only manifests when man is at peace with everything. Man is at peace with himself, man is at peace with all the creatures, all the different beings, the entities, higher beings, lower beings, whatever. Once you're at peace with that, then you're at that place where we say it's Islam, or I, self, law, and master. Man realizing God within, not without, and training the God within to be his guide and his protector and all that. Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. If anybody else has any questions, if you have any questions, you can throw those out.
Can you explain to me, so that I can get a little more clarity around Allah? Because Allah is feminine, but then you refer to Allah as him.
That's him, yeah.
So explain the concept.
Yeah. So once you get to the place of recognizing the divine feminine, you know that all the forces are feminine in nature. In the 1920s, our people were getting out of mental slavery. So they were transitioning, he was transitioning them from Christianity to Islam. So certain language had to be equal to where the people were at. So when he said the Quran, he said, you know, this is for all those who love Jesus. That's every Christian. And every Christian jumped on board with what he was doing, because the message relayed to them based on where they were at. God is a man, Holy Ghost and Holy Spirit and all this stuff, whatever. He got them where they were at. But then once they crossed that threshold into here, now they get into really what this is about.
Applied science.
Right?
The applied science.
Right? So it was really to attract the people who were of that mindset of Christianity. Because if he told them Allah is feminine and all that stuff, they wouldn't even, they didn't take him serious.
I came upon this. It came upon me about a couple years ago, about 2016 or something. I must be working with a feminine energy, divine feminine energy. But trying to even, because my family is entrenched in Christianity, right? One of deacon and evangelist and all of those things, right? So we know is the real one because we done because we done with blocks. Because we just couldn't force himself in the church and things. So when it come upon me that there is, you know what? When you start analyze, we say, no. We start analyzing. See, mama nature. We start from a look my point of mama nature. So then I remember we tell about my mother know. My mother know who want to can give a name on the father.
Right.
So now only and my father now we are trying to bring it to my father first. Listen, boy, before we even come into this knowledge of moorish science, so we can come together. So me I try to reason with my father now and I tell him, he might call me prodigal, they were calling me prodigal child because me I deviate from the book. But then me I tell him what the book is allegories. It's me, and everybody that address me. The book never address me and we can't identify it with a human never start with them. We can't identify it. So how do I know? Like I was wondering, how do I approach even my father now, who reached that stage at age? And even though he never said that a Christian man, but no, he must say, why? My daughter, you can't think like that, you can't talk like that, you have to see him. And I said, but father, look, nature can't be, look how the world is. And you have to your father, because you reason your father. And it's like, it just shut me up. Whatever you say, child, how you talk about this person like that? Knowing that in a field, and Buddhism, in a working righteousness, but in the church, one thing is and so a lot of them believe say, then where one, and when it reach up to the time, they go back to themselves, which is going back to instead of going back to themselves, then go back to themselves.
Further away from that.
As slavery. Where you are trying to move that.
Well, one thing is that sometimes you have to recognize people where they're at, especially if they get to a certain age. They ain't crossing over. I don't care what you tell them, right? Because Jesus came to them and they murdered him. So don't take it as if, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, we got this truth. We're gonna give them the truth, and they're just gonna accept it. No, it's not. It's probably not gonna go like that, depending on who you're dealing with. One of the lessons is Council of Nicaea, and let anybody who's Christian know that you're actually a Constantinian. You're not Christian. You're really no, but that's what I'm saying. Once you present that to them, right? It's just like with Negro black color.
I did not, but I didn't actually try to bring the holy corruption, and it's like the come you bring that to me, it's like I'm a demon.
But that's what it is because of where they're at in their mindset. We keep looking at it as if truth has some angle that somebody's it's either you're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it. If they don't get it, it's all good.
I was trying to use reasoning because it's not like you're going to any anybody. You go to a person who you always perceive with a particular mindset who can only reason open-minded. So when you go to even them people there, and them people there can't see what are they doing?
No, this all we are is the guy who sows the seeds. The seed's gonna grow on its own. We're not doing anything to grow the seed.
They say eyes to see, but cannot see.
Right? Yeah. No, I mean it's not even, you know, that's what we ultimately that's what it is we want. People to embrace this info. But like for example, there's people who, you know what I mean, we've been on this for however long, and then there's brothers who, you know, that you know, back in the day when you want to go kick somebody's ass, or you want to go to the club, or go check some girls or whatever, everybody's game to go. And then it's time for knowledge, or nobody doesn't want it. But then, you know, there's one or two people who now they're getting it. Now they're like, hey, you know that stuff you were talking about 10 years ago or whatever? You got anything else on that? Because I want to find out some more, whatever. Those are the ones who, those are the ones.
But the ones that
No, you
I
can't,
don't go to people.
no, you can't worry about
I
them
don't
ones.
go to people is when they come to me.
That's the only ones that matter.
They come to me, you know, and that's why, oh, you need to get your citizenship. I'm you know what?
It's the only ones that matter.
From 2016, I said, look, your PR is the right stuff. Because any which part never go back, I'd rather be stateless. No, so I said, look, no, it's those that come to you and they, because they see who you are, and say, oh, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I'm saying, oh, somebody came to me, and like, oh, you need to go get it. And I said, no, I want to declare myself as a Moor, because that gives me more freedom. Though I may have to do my due diligence with my necessaries. But why do I, the very mere fact that I will have to go stand and say, I declare I ain't going to do it. That I ain't going to stand and say, I declare to nothing after that. I've never done this and I will never do it.
Well, really, what you're doing is you're declaring yourself to the subjects, and you're subjecting yourself.
And you cannot, why always is it that you're going to tell me that I have to pass a test? What kind of test am I going to pass? That's not a test. That is a program. You give me something with 100 something to study all that and to come back and write it.
And when you finish, you have pledge allegiance to the King.
Hey! But me, no, me too free spirit. I'm too free spirit.
I was telling someone that this morning in Jamaica, because he said, the Prime Minister in Australia today. I said, listen now, when he's serving, who is going to serve to serve? The Queen.
The Queen.
The order of the Queen. You're going to listen. I'm going to call them later and see if they're going to tell me what.
Yeah, but that's going back again to you're dealing with people who are in a particular mindset. So to have the expectation that they're gonna see your way and all this stuff, don't waste your time. Wasting time. Don't waste your time. Just like you say, those who want it, they're gonna say, hey, can I ask you about that stuff you got in your head? Or I heard something that I know you're studying this info. You got any information on whatever? Other than that, focus on self.
When they come and see you, they tell them, but why you need to go to church? Because they never ask them.
So what else is the Bible good for? M. Kiva, you ready? What's he up to? Oh.
Imagine somebody feels they come in here and go, wow, is that?
Allah the Father of the universe.
Allah the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And my salvation.
By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Juali. Islam. Give thanks more. About to shut it down right now. They had a
Baylor based
they had a troll.
like a travel document. I was
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Everybody's trying, yo. Everybody's trying. Everybody